the person's what's his name, Mr. Crosby, was it?
Crossley, Andrew Crossley, yes.
Okay. One of the documents, which was, as you know, there was a denial of service attacks from the anonymous group on the ACS Law website, which then kind of leaked the emails or put the emails online, and then they were grabbed and shared and sent around. And one of the documents there outlines the financial plan with the lawsuits of the company, and I think they were talking about millions or something like £500,000 or so in the expenses. One of the concerns expressed, as far as I can remember from one of the emails, was that the company would go out of business and maybe go bankrupt and have to pay debt to compensate people. So this is really interesting. I hope that they can use the leaked information to ensure they can extract because, if they actually shut down the company and it declares bankruptcy, then they can pursue the person who's behind the company, especially if that's one of the main forces behind the company, and try to get out of him anything that he actually earned while he was in the company. Because
I've got to be very careful here, because we're talking about obviously I'm talking about my views on a solicitor and his conduct in relation to alleged copyright infringers on file sharing networks. So I have to be very careful in what I say. I'll stress obviously that this is all just opinion, and we're putting good faith in what obviously we've read from other bloggers and other sites, influential sites on the net. The big concern I have is that now that Mr. Crossley's closed down his business, was that an attempt to prevent Judge Burst from further scrutinising the evidence or lack thereof that was presented to him for these 26 file sharers? And the reason why I say that is Mr. Crossley has a meeting apparently this year with the Solicitors Regulatory Authority, where his conduct will be brought into question. It's basically an employment tribunal. Now, there's quite a few sanctions open to the SRA, one of which I assume would be dismissal, defrocking, whatever you want to call it, removal from the being allowed to practice law, alongside a lot of fines. Now, Mr. Crossley's no stranger to these people. He's allegedly been found guilty on 2 other occasions, I believe, which was documented on Wikipedia. You can visit that site yourself and have a little look. But possibly, and my suggestion would be that his reluctance to proceed further with the cases now that the judge was further scrutinising them, it could be argued that whatever the judge discovers could be further used against him when his case is brought up with the SRA, especially if it was to show any sort of bad practice or abuse of power. Now, Judge Burst has been pretty damning with some of the comments he's made. He's almost suggested that Mr. Crossley Media Cat are flirting with the laws in regards to legality when pursuing these cases. Is that a correct interpretation? Well, we'll see on his final ruling. Am I the expert? No, I'm not. So I'm certainly open to anybody else who would like to correct me on that. But the problem I've got now is a year ago when this all started, an ACS Law took over, I believe, Davenport and Lyons when they were pursuing the same type of thing. I said at the time, in my measured opinion, the evidence that was presented with an IP address alone is not enough. You could maybe, even if you want to say you could categorically confirm that a file was shared from a specific IP, that still doesn't say what person at the end of that IP it is. It could be one of 6, it could be one of 10. If it's a shared student accommodation, it could be one of 30.
One of the issues, of course, is now lots of PCs are not controlled by the person who actually sits before. Actually, I'm not sure if you've seen that. That's from yesterday or yesterday afternoon. What happened was that that Google, in fact, was found to have several computers actually downloading some illegal material, and the IP addresses were passed by one of the companies behind these things. And of course, now there is the risk of Google's machines being forced to disconnect from the internet.
There's so many. I mean, this is what makes this particular thing so dangerous. There is so many possible explanations. Even if you do have indeed identified the correct IP address, even for something simple like your next door neighbour with access to your broadband connection, and this is a problem that they have. And in my view, and I said it at the time, and I stick by it now, there is no way you can categorically prove enough for a court to be satisfied that a person, Mr. Smith, is downloading X, Y, and Z. At a particular time on a particular date. That's forgetting all the mistakes that have been made by the ISPs when they've misidentified the customers, etc., etc. What I was hoping for, though, personally, was, like I say, I fully believed since the day this started, or was moved over to ACS law, that this wasn't good enough for a court, a civil court. The evidence wasn't strong enough. I would have liked to have seen this run and a precedent being set. I get a horrible feeling now that because it's been the claims will try to be retracted by Mr. Crossley last week, and now he's closed up his company. I get this horrible feeling that this whole matter's now going to be laid to rest, and there's going to be no precedent set. I would have liked to have seen something set in stone to prevent the old age pensioners being accused of downloading hardcore pornography. I would like to see this be set a precedent so that the husband doesn't get a letter through the post to say that he's been downloading pornography, embarrassing his wife, and all the other people that had a real problem with being accused of these things when they had either no technical knowledge, no knowledge, or even no facilities to do what was being alleged of them. There was a couple on the Watchdog show where they actually submitted their computers for examination, and it was proved that they had not downloaded the file, yet they'd received these letters. So I was hoping to put an end to all that practice. But if I may, because obviously tomorrow we'll be in a far better position to comment on the ins and outs of what Mr. Burse has to say and what conclusions are drawn. Very interesting article, Roy, and I think this was one of yours that you linked to, and I retweeted or redented, and that was this pirate box. I saw the title and I clicked on the link and I followed it to this site. Very interesting little scheme. Now, for those that don't know, it's basically a USB stick plugged into a Wi-Fi router that allows you to set up a private or a local network where people can connect to your Wi-Fi instead of connecting onto the internet. They actually effectively connect onto your USB stick, which is part of this little package, and it allows a sharing of material. Now, albeit it's very short range. Whatever the range is for that particular device. But I just thought it was a very nice little idea, and I saw this type of thing being the next greatest thing to kick off, because rightly or wrongly, whatever your views on copyright, you can say that the file sharing scheme or the file sharing ethos is something that is very, very popular. People want material, people want to share that material. And I'm not just talking about alleged copyright material, I'm talking about Creative Commons. There's all sorts of things that have been that are shared on a daily basis that use the BitTorrent protocol.
The way this is usually discouraged is actually trying to educate people that sharing is wrong. And if you, I'm not sure if you've paid attention to some of the new cartoons being spread around in Japanese and in English, trying to even use very friendly cartoons, kind of like Mickey Mouse, and trying to tell people sharing is wrong and it's illegal, and we're going to compare it to people who are assaulting ships and things like that. If you do so, and society will basically disown you. Of course, one of the issues they have, the word pirate, has been now associated with things like Pirates of the Caribbean and, some sexy people, doing brave things. And it's actually true. And even the music industry admits that the word pirate is not good enough now, because it's being seen as a very adventurous, kind of a heroic thing to brag about if you're a pirate. And that they want to change that. Some of them even use the word criminal now, even though it's not really a crime. But anyway, one of the things they try to teach kids now is that sharing is something you should be ashamed of, as opposed to, of course, what the old saying might say. I'm not sure if there is a saying like that, but Mom used to tell you that sharing is good, that sharing with your neighbors, share with your friends. And here the companies actually tell you the opposite, because they want you to be a consumer. They want you to be a person who is licensing things and actually always going to the companies to get things instead of going to your neighbor, instead of actually going to the marketplace.
When you're a child, what do you get told when you're keeping your toys to yourself? You should share with the other children. Share whether it's it doesn't matter what toy it is. You should be sharing that with the other children. But think about it. I mean, off on a slight tangent. The species would die if it didn't share fluids. Okay, that's a bit of an adult-rated one, but
it's nearly there with Roy's comment on sexy people doing brave things, which I've quoted, and that's certainly going to be in the show notes. It's a very good little little say.
Right. The species would die out, not just the human race, if it didn't share. So, I mean, the sharing's natural. People want to share. But there's a comment on TechDirt that was one of the TechDirt do like the favourite comment of the week and things like that. And one that was really, really good that they pointed out was someone had said in the comments that we live in a wonderful age. I'm paraphrasing here, I don't remember exactly. We live in a wonderful age where technology allows us to have the entire Library of Congress in one device. Yet the Copyright Act forbids us from doing so.
Also, one important thing is